What's up YouTube, it's Cross, and today I'm back again with another vid. And this time I'll be purging all the air from my coolant system. But recently I changed the serpentine belt in tensioner, which required me to drain all the coolant from my car, and that led to air bubbles being introduced to the system. Foolishly, I thought I could burp the air from the system, and that led to error codes. After a recent 4-hour trip, I had to pull over on the side of the road as my transmission was overheating due to the lack of coolant flow. I tried to remedy the problem two separate ways. One method was a service bulletin posted by Mercedes, which called for disconnecting one of the upper hoses and waited for coolant to appear, letting the air escape. While this method did let air out and make the coolant light disappear, it came back within a day. So next I used my Zentry tablet to purge air from the system. This method did help, but within 2 days the coolant light was back. At this point I realized I'd have to drain the coolant system and vacuum fill it. And the tools I used to do that were a ratchet with a socket set, channel locks, flat head, 3-gallon air compressor with a quick disconnect hose, coolant vacuum and refill kit, drain pans, and 2 gallons of coolant. Once I had the car up on jack stands and the rear wheel chopped, I used the 8mm socket with the ratchet to remove the front 2 splash guards. To begin draining coolant, I removed the driver's side hose near the radiator fan. With the reservoir cap open, I used the flathead to pull down on the retaining clip, then used my pliers to pull the hose off. It took a while for this first hose to drain. Roughly 5 liters of coolant came out. I'll also add removing the front driver's side tire gives you a lot more room to work. With that hose done draining, I pushed it back on, then popped the retaining clip up. Next, I disconnected this hose leading to the intercooler. To save myself from getting soaked, I disconnected it from above. And once that hose was drained, I reconnected it. And that hose alone yielded around 1 liter of coolant. And lastly, I disconnected this hose on the passenger side. Once all the coolant was done draining, I pushed the hose back into place and popped the retaining clip on. Now I was ready to begin vacuuming. I grabbed my 3-gallon air compressor, turned it on, and let it air up. Once it was done building up pressure, I set the tool side between 90 to 110 psi. Then I began setting up my OMT vacuum refill kit. I removed the Teflon tape and began applying it to the Japanese style fittings that came with the kit. Then I tightened the fitting onto the vacuum generator. After that, I installed the filling hose. And I used the wrench to tighten down both the fitting and the filling hose. I slid on the round adapter. In my case, the 42mm provided the best seal. Then I added the Venturi adapter. With the valves closed, I connected my air compressor to the Venturi adapter. I ran the exhaust hose to a Folgers coffee container to catch any leftover fluid or residue. I tightened down the vacuum generator to the reservoir so that no air can leak out. I opened the valve allowing air to flow from the air compressor to the exhaust hose. After that, I opened the valve on the Venturi adapter, pulling the vacuum on the car. After pulling the first vacuum on the car, I closed the valve to the venturi adapter, then for a brief second opened the valve to the fill hose, allowing coolant to flow in. This allows any air in the fill hose to escape and ensures that only coolant goes back in the system when refilling. I performed multiple rounds of vacuums on the car until the pressure was stabilized. Avoiding the red area as this is where damage to the coolant system can occur. After multiple rounds of vacuuming, I closed the valve to the venturi adapter and opened the valve to the fill hose, allowing coolant to go back into the car. I refilled a gallon of coolant as necessary so the fill hose will remain submerged. Once the reservoir was full of coolant, I shut off all the valves on the venturi adapter and the fill hose. I disconnected all the hoses and disassembled the vacuum refill kit. I inspected the level of coolant in the reservoir, then checked all the coolant hoses, then I topped it off. After topping it off, I started the car up, let the coolant get up to temp, and check for any leaks. Now that the coolant system is refilled and free of all air, I used some Dawn spray to clean up residue. Once I was done cleaning, I reinstalled the air box and the splash guards as well as the driver's side tire, lowered the car off of jack stands, and drove it around the block and called it a day. Thanks for watching.